Hello everyone, I'm Charlie Danis of Capital Athletics. This is part one of the Capital Men's Basketball Podcast. And joining me now, the head coach of the Capital Men's Basketball Program, Damon Goodwin. Coach, I want to talk with you about one of your coaching peers. Mike Krzyzewski recently became the first men's basketball coach to reach 1,000 career wins. He did it in a win over St. John's this past weekend. Your thoughts on Coach K's recent achievement?
Unbelievable number. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see a game, but I heard it was a tough game. It was a hard-fought game, and it's just an unbelievable number. I know Coach Reynolds in our conference had 600 and some wins, and I think that's almost unbelievable. And to add another few hundred on top of that is truly an outstanding thing to accomplish. So congratulations.
Do you think that we will ever see another coach even approach that number, given the way that coaches move about these days?
Well, I think Boeheim's close. Is that right? Boeheim's like
I think he's a little over 900.
Yeah, I think there's a couple guys that are close. I think it's harder and harder in today's world to stay at the same place for 35 years or whatever these guys have been there. And I think those numbers are, just like I said, unbelievable numbers. Now, depending on how many games they play in the future is a big thing too. I know right now that in college basketball, you know, that if you go to the tournament and play a few games, you're almost up to 40 games, where 20 years ago that may have been 30 games. So that is one thing, but it's just an outstanding achievement.
Let's switch the attention now from basketball to football. Super Bowl is coming up. You know, I asked this question to Dixie Jeffers a couple of weeks ago. What do you make of the Super Bowl becoming this huge spectacle?
Well, you know, it's a fun event. My wife and I will probably go someplace and watch it with friends like most people do. It's a fun event. I think it's all out of proportion sometimes, I guess, from a coaching standpoint, an athletic standpoint. I think some of the athletic events that we have are out of proportion. It's a great diversion for people, but there are a lot of important things in the world, and it's just another thing to enjoy and have fun with. And as long as people view it that way, there's nothing hurt by it.
What are some Super Bowl memories that stand out to you since watching the game?
Well, you know, just being young when I was a kid and just watching football. I always played football growing up, and same thing, you know, my parents and I going over to somebody's house, watching the game and doing that. So I was actually born before the Super Bowl started, but by the time I was old enough to realize that was going on, the Super Bowl had begun. So that's what I remember.
Any plays that stand out to you?
No, not really, no.
Just a game
Yeah,
overall.
yeah.
Your thoughts on Deflategate? That's been a major story about how the Patriots presumably had deflated balls during the AFC Championship game. It's caught a lot of fire within the last couple of weeks.
It has, and I think it's been blown out of proportion. If it happened intentionally, I don't know. I doubt if the quarterback or the head coach had anything to do with it. It doesn't seem like they would be worried about 2 pounds of pressure on a football before a big game like that. Maybe somebody did it. I don't know, but I just, you know, I'm not sure what's going to happen with it. I'm not sure what you can do. I'm sure there's very little you can prove, and you just move forward.
Well, let's get away from that story. Let's actually talk about the game this year. New England versus Seattle. This is a game where it's basically a pick'em game. There really isn't a clear-cut favorite. Both teams were the #1 seeds in each conference of the NFL. Who's your pick?
Well, I wouldn't bet against the Patriots. I can tell you that. It's a hard bet to do that. I know they haven't won it for a number of years now, but they're always knocking on the door. And I did watch the Seahawks game where they came back and won it. You know, in the last it was overtime, I believe, right? They won it in overtime. So, but I watch pro football as much as I can, but that's not a lot, to be quite honest. And I'll just go someplace and enjoy the game.
Cool. We're talking with head coach Damon Goodwin here on the Capital Men's Basketball Podcast. Let's now switch the focus back to basketball here. Your team recently snapped a 7-game losing streak, 69-65 win over Ohio Northern last week. Before we get into the specifics of that game, how good did it feel to get back in the win column?
Well, it felt good just to make some shots as a basketball team. We've just struggled putting the ball in the basket, and we shot it well from 3. Tyrell Jackson made a big 3. AJ Dixon made a big 3 late in the game, and when you do that, you give yourself a chance to win, and that's what we haven't been doing.
Speaking of AJ Dixon, boy, did he have himself a game against Ohio Northern. 23 points in that win over the Polar Bears. He had to work in that game.
He did. He played a lot of minutes. You know, Adam Blake was not playing. He was injured, so a lot of the ball pressure he had to handle, and did a great job, and scored and made big plays. But that's his. We expect him to do that. He's a kid that's played for 3 years, and he needs to make plays like that for us to win basketball games.
We've seen young guys like Brennan Chukran recently come into the starting lineup. How have the young guys been doing this year, developing from going to college basketball to where they are now?
Well, our perimeter guys are all fairly young, and I think that's been an issue for us this year as we try to develop those guys. But Brennan is specifically is probably our best shooter, and the statistics don't show that at this point. But as far as a kid that looks good shooting it and does it fundamentally the right way and all that, so we just felt we had to give him an opportunity. We also felt by inserting Brennan at the 4 spot that would loosen things up for Andrew Bolka inside, and I think it has done that for us the last couple games, and hopefully as we continue to progress through the season that those two things work for us and get better. Brennan shoots it better, and Andrew gets a little more space to work inside.
This will be a tough stretch for your team these next couple games. Your next 4 games at Wilmington, a home game against Mount Union, home game against Marietta, and then a road game at John Carroll. You've already seen a couple of these teams this year. How challenging will that stretch be?
Well, it really is, and the past few weeks when we played the lower teams in the league and we just gave it away, this is where it comes back to haunt a little bit. But we're at a point in our season that we are just worried about ourselves. I truly did not know after the game Saturday even who we played on Wednesday. And we're worried about ourselves and what we do, and we're looking for growth, and not only for this year but for the future with some of our guys and how they progress.
Coach, we always end the podcast with the random question of the week, and this random question of the week has to do with the Super Bowl. Your favorite Super Bowl commercial?
Wow. There's a Budweiser commercial with a coach yelling in the referee's ear and him not making any gestures or anything, and the announcer goes, how do you get training like that? And then it goes to he's sitting on the couch and his wife is yelling in his ear.
That would be great training. It's how they think about it.
It's a great commercial. I think they only ran it one time or one Super Bowl, and they got some heat from it. But if you ever Google it, it's pretty funny.
All right, Coach. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Head Coach Damon Goodwin joining us here on part 1 of the Capital Men's Basketball Podcast. Coming up, we'll be sitting down with junior guard AJ Dixon. For Capital Athletics, I'm Charlie Danis. We'll see you next time. Hello everyone, I'm Charlie Danis of Capital Athletics. This is part 2 of the bi-weekly Capital Men's Basketball Podcast. And joining me now, the junior guard, AJ Dixon. AJ, thanks so much for taking some time to talk with us today. I got to ask you, how were you introduced to the game of basketball?
My dad raised me. I started when I was really young, and he coached me through all the way till pretty much high school, and then just from there I loved the game.
So he was a real role model for you growing up.
Mm-hmm.
You're originally from Hilliard, which is a suburb here in Columbus. Can you talk a little bit about not only your school, Hilliard-Bradley, but basketball with Bradley, Davidson, all the other schools in that area?
Well, I can tell you, like, the youth in Hilliard is big in basketball, so there's a lot of leagues that you can get into. And then, it's like, I know they split you up, so you're usually playing with the same kids that you're going to go to high school with all the way going up, so I don't know, they do a good job of keeping kids interested.
Who's your favorite basketball player?
LeBron James, for sure.
Why?
He's the greatest. I don't know, I started watching him when he was in high school, loved his game, and followed him ever since.
So another question for you. What led you to Capital?
A couple coaches came to my game, and it was close to home, so.
What do you like most about Capital?
The community. I love how everybody's real close. The Cap fam, as people say. So.
When you first met Coach Damon Goodwin, what struck you about him?
I don't know. He's a real good guy. Has a lot of connections, and he's real stern and someone to keep you on the straight path.
Do you have any good Damon Goodwin stories that don't contain expletives?
I don't know. That's a tough one. There's a lot. I don't know. That's, gosh. I'm trying to think of a good one. I can't right now. Gosh. I don't know. Probably after losing one game or two and just throws the food off the bus. That's probably
Just to try to get his point across?
Yeah.
But he has been huge in your development as a basketball
Yes,
player,
for sure.
correct? So it was good to see you guys get back into the win column. 69-65 win over Ohio Northern. Before we get into the specifics of that game, I'm sure it felt good to snap that losing streak and to finally get a win under your belt.
Yes, it did. We needed a big win to get our confidence going and puts us right back into the tournament picture, and we can keep building wins and see where it goes from there.
In that game, you had 23 points. You also had it working from three-point range, 4 or 5 from beyond the arc. What was working for you that day?
I think I brought a lot of energy from the defensive end, which made everybody more confident, and even myself, and just felt a lot more comfortable.
You're a veteran on this team, class-wise, being a junior. There have been some young guys that have been stepping up on the perimeter as of late. Brendan Chukran, a freshman, has come into the starting lineup. We've also seen Tyrell Jackson, a sophomore, make some big shots here and there from the perimeter. Can you talk about the development of the guards this year?
Well, Brennan, I can tell you, has been working on his game a ton and always in the gym right now. And Tyrell has always been a good shooter, just a confidence issue with him. He's feeling it right now.
And you like the direction that the group is going?
Yes, I like it a lot.
So you're able to snap the losing streak. You got a tough stretch coming up here. You got games against Mount Union, Marietta, John Carroll. A couple of these teams you've seen a time or two before. What's going to be the keys to succeeding in these next couple games?
Our defense, it's our biggest thing right now. We're going to focus on guarding the ball and let it fly, I guess.
Super Bowl is coming up. I'm sure you're a big football fan. What are some of your favorite Super Bowl moments?
Well, I'm a Steeler fan, so I'd have to say when they played the Cardinals in 2009 or 10, the James Harrison return fumble for a touchdown.
That was a pretty spectacular play. And Santonio Holmes with that touchdown grab.
Yeah.
Former Ohio State Buckeye right there. So let's get to this year's Super Bowl. This is a pretty interesting matchup. You got New England on one side, Seattle on the other. Both teams were #1 seeds in their respective conferences, and there's no clear-cut favorite. So how do you see this year's game shaking out?
I don't know. It depends if Tom Brady deflates the balls or not. No. I see the Patriots winning. I think Tom Brady, he's a winner. Just gonna go out there, and even though Seattle's defense is pretty good, I think New England's gonna pull it out.
Can you give me a final score?
34-24.
We're talking with Capital junior guard AJ Dixon here on the second half of the Capital Men's Basketball podcast. Now, you're a business major, but I understand that you have some aspirations into possibly going into coaching.
Yes. I grew up playing basketball, loved it, so I want to continue and develop the youth and just stay around basketball as much as possible.
My last question for you, AJ. We always have a random question of the week just to get to know you guys a little bit better. We also do this with Coach Goodwin. I'm going to ask you the same random question I did with Coach Goodwin a moment ago. Your favorite Super Bowl commercial is?
Has to be WeGo, the Bud Light one. WeGo, the dog that brings the Bud Light.
That is pretty funny. Can you name a couple others?
Also, the M&M commercials. One I think was the one where he opens a trunk and there's the M&M in there. I don't know.
Oh yeah, the European sounding guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He says something to the effect of "I'm going to eat you" or something like that, and the yellow M&M says, "Okay, I'm cool with that."
Yeah.
Cool. Well, hey, so thanks so much for joining us.
No problem.
That was junior guard AJ Dixon joining us here on the second half of the Capital Men's Basketball Podcast. For Capital Athletics, I'm Charlie Danis. We'll see you next time.